Well, good morning to all of you there at Southeast Conference. I hope you're enjoying Sitka. I want to thank Mr. Southeast, my friend Robert, for the invitation to share a few words with you today. I do wish that I could be there in person, but I was able to get a little time in Southeast during my August travels. I had a great time at the Blueberry Arts Festival. Was impressed by the new Wish facility there in Ketchikan. I was able to finally get out to Metlakatla Founders Day. That was a lot of fun. Then I was in Juneau and met with some of the residents who lost their homes in the Jokalop flood. Know that we're still pushing for disaster relief there. I also had a carefully planned day with Secretary Buttigieg. In fairness, I actually wished for bad weather, and it worked. The bad weather rearranged our schedule, but it was a good thing because it allowed him to experience what travel in our state's really like when you get shut out by the weather and you can't fly. He learned the many virtues of our marine highway system, and I want to thank all those who took an opportunity to engage with him when we were on the Hubbard. When we stopped there in Haines, we had an opportunity to look at the Lutak dock there. That was an important infrastructure piece for him. Now, one community that I didn't make it to was Skagway. I'd hoped to have meetings and hike the Chilkoot Trail, or at least part of that. That's part of my effort to light a fire under the Park Service to move to reopen it more quickly, especially since we've designated it as a National Historic Trail. I had a great August back home, though, and just filled me up. Senate is now back in session through early October. I'm telling you, though, it's shaping up to be a tough month. And all of us have September 30, which is the end of the fiscal year, that's circled on our calendars now in a big red circle. We've got a lot to sort out by then. We have reauthorizations for the Farm Bill, the FAA, community health centers, and still many more pending. And of course, federal funding that runs out at the end of the month. I know that many are speculating that a government shutdown is more likely than not, but let me tell you, I'm doing everything that I can to prevent it. Shutdowns hurt Alaskans, plain and simple. They hurt the country. They halt essential services, and in fairness, it's not like we're saving any money on this. It is inefficiency and waste at its best. There are lots of good reasons for Alaskans to want these appropriations bills that we're advancing. There's some big wins for our state, including for statewide priorities like salmon research and the cleanup of contaminated lands. I've secured nearly $60 million in congressionally directed spending for Southeast alone. A few of these examples are the Haines Community Safety and Training Center. There's landfill improvements for Angoon, expansion of the emergency room there at Bartlett in Juneau, a marine clean energy transition accelerator project there in Sitka. Appropriations are probably going to take up most of our time this month, but beyond that, my team and I are working hard on a whole series of priorities for Southeast. One of those is food security. I recently introduced my Improving Arctic Act, which recognizes the contributions our hardworking fishermen and mariculturists make. My bill would bolster seafood processing in our small coastal communities, ensure fishermen are eligible for USDA loan opportunities, and open farm credit to businesses supporting our fishing industry. I'm also closing in finally on the introduction of my working waterfront legislation. This is similarly designed to benefit our coastal communities. And it's really a very wide-ranging bill. We've got a lot of input from many of you in your communities. But these are provisions related to energy, fisheries, mariculture, shoreside infrastructure, workforce development, and more. And then a third measure that you'll be interested in is legislation that I'm reviving to exempt Alaska from the Passenger Vessel Services Act. This is PVSA. We won a temporary exemption during the pandemic to ensure that Canada couldn't prevent cruise ships from reaching our ports. Now that's expired, but it needs to be permanent so that Alaskans and only Alaskans can determine who reaches our state. We're also working to address the biggest challenges facing the fishing industry. We've seen the threat from the Wild Salmon Conservancy, that lawsuit against our small troll fleet earlier in the year, and certainly now the impact to salmon prices from Russia's flooding of the global markets for quick cash to fund their war in Ukraine. I know the hardship that this has created. I'm looking at every option and avenue to help. If there was ever a time to fully ban Russian origin seafood from entering U.S. markets, it's now. I'm working closely with Dan and Mary to close the loopholes that Russia is exploiting, and we're pressing the Biden administration to do the same. And now, finally, ferries. You know I believe in ferries. I'm proud of the funding that we brought home from the infrastructure bill. $285 million so far, which is second only to the $2 billion that we've secured for broadband. But I'll tell you folks, I'm worried. I'm worried we've got a 5-year window, not a 50-year stream, to fix this. And near the end of year 2, we still don't have a long-term plan for the marine highway system. Now, we're on track to deliver better service and a new vessel or 2, but when the infrastructure bill's funding is exhausted, we're going to find ourselves hanging over a cliff, and perhaps without the dollars needed for continued operations, maintenance, and upgrades, and we simply cannot let that happen. I could get going on the ferries, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more that I could touch on, from the progress that we're making on our landless legislation, to the need to allow Alaska Native Vietnam vets to select allotments in the Tongass, to the work that I'm doing to update the Indian Arts and Crafts Act. But in the interest of time, I'm going to close here. I would encourage you, find the members of my team who are present there. Sherry Klein from Ketchikan, Kara Hollatz from Juneau. Anything you need from my office, they're standing ready and do a great job for me. I wish you all the best for the rest of this meeting, because we're counting on you. You are the compass, and you're leading the way for the future of Southeast. Thank you so much, and take care.